What's going on, everybody? Today in this tutorial we will be working with the Xbox 360e console here, and I'm just going to be showing you how to do a full open and disassembly guide. I've done this with some of the other ones, but there are some differences here that we're going to talk about that make this one both different and more challenging than say the Slim. To start off, I do want to get something out of the way, being that I sell a lot of parts on eBay and the website. I do get a lot of people that actually get the Xbox 360e confused, so I wanted to make sure that we address that real quick before we get started. So the Xbox 360e console is the last iteration. They actually released this console the same day they announced the Xbox One console. This was meant to look a little bit like the Xbox One console, but ironically uses, especially the initial version, uses a lot of the same parts from the Slim console. Now, a lot of people get this confused because it's Xbox 360e, and a lot of people think that that means Elite, and that's not the case. So right here, I have what we all probably know is although this one's pretty nasty and I still have to go through it, but we all know that this is the Xbox 360 Fat console. It's the first model that came out, and there is one that's called the Elite model. That's the exact same as the Fat model. It's just an all-black version, and usually when you bought the Elite, it also came with bigger hard drives. It came with an all-black controller to match, but otherwise it's still just a Fat console. It's the same exact thing. That is the Elite. So this is just the E. This is when they started naming their consoles really weird. So that's all it is. The Xbox 360e console, not Elite. So you do want to have one that looks just like this. Looks a little bit more like the Xbox One. The Xbox Slim is different in that the top is angled right here instead of it being flat. And then you have a faceplate that's different. You don't have any touch controls the same way you did on the Slim. And so, yeah, just to make sure you've got the right console here. So let's get started with the tools here. Depending on what all you need to tear apart, you will need a Phillips head. That's the standard screwdriver. But we will be needing a Torx. That's Torx. And we need specifically size T10 and T8 for the main case screws. And then you're going to need something to do some prying work. I like to use a flathead screwdriver, and that's just, one like this that has the flat bit there, because there's a lot of this that you really have to pry and get out, and you don't want to use a smaller one because there is one bit that you've really got to get into the case a little bit. So you want one that's like a full-size screwdriver. Okay, so just to start off with, one of the big differences here is the way they've designed the front. There's actually two different ways that you can handle this, but the big difference between the Slim and actually between every console ever made is that the disk drive bezel here on the front, which is just, the showpiece for the front of the disk drive that matches up with the case. This actually goes around and over top of the faceplate. So unlike every console, you can't just pull the faceplate off straight away. Now, I'm sure that there are other videos or just people trying to figure this out on their own, found out you can just pry this off, and that is what we're going to do. The only issue is if you do that while it's still fully put together, it is a lot harder. You have a lot less leeway. So we're going to have to do this in kind of a different order than what we've typically done, especially, compared to the Slim, because the faceplate's one of the first things that comes off. But this one, it's going to be one of the last things that come off. We're going to start getting this thing taken apart. So unlike the other consoles, taking off the sides is going to be our first step, but it's actually extremely easy. So all we're going to do is, if you have the hard drive cover, we're going to go ahead. We're going to pull that hard drive cover right off. It's got the little pulley thing right here. And then all you have to do is take your flathead screwdriver. I like to do it right up here in the front, and you can see there is a gap, right here. You can just stick in there and push out. That's all you've got to do to get these side pieces off. So we're going to do that with this one on this side. We're going to flip it. And you can see we can do the exact same thing with this side. And that comes right out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the back. If you have a console that's still sealed, make sure you go ahead and remove the seal because that can like hold it together. So we're just going to, well, I'm going to drop my screwdriver, but I just like to cut right through them. If you want it to be a little cleaner, you can just, you know, peel the whole sticker off or whatever, but I just kind of slide right through it and basically just cut it. You don't even really need a knife or anything. So first off, we're going to start with this side. This side is the one that has the PCV. That's actually the Wi-Fi board right there because this side is easier. You'll see there's a clamp in there that's right in here. And all we have to do is we just have to get that to pull off inward so that it comes off of the clip while we're prying it outward. So unlike the Slim, you could just put pressure and it'll pop that off of there, but that does not work with the E. So what we do is we just take it, we stick our screwdriver underneath it and pry it out, and then pry it apart like that. What I like to do too is I like to take it like this, so the clip and put it on the outside. That way it doesn't accidentally reconnect while you're messing with the other side. So you could just kind of do it like that. Now this side is the real pain. What you have to do is you can't even really see it, but there's a clip just like the other side. But because of everything in the way and because of a piece right here and because of the locking mechanism, you can't even really see it. So you kind of just have to stick the screwdriver down in there. And then that will pry that first one out. And then the problem is the second one, again, like I said earlier, unlike the Slim you could just put the correct pressure on it and it would pop out. But this one almost never happens. So you also have to remember that the first clip we took, that one is going this direction. The other clip is going the opposite direction. So we've got to pull it off the opposite way. And unfortunately, the only good way to do this is just brute force, because you can't, it's too far in there to get it in there, to get your screwdriver in there, and it's just way too far out. So you've just got to pry it while putting a little pressure right here on this side and just do the best you can. Oh, and that one actually came easier, but you see that that comes out with quite a snap, and there's just not much you can do about it. So now we've got that, and we can just pull that right off. I'm going to set that aside. Now we've got our screws. Now, as I talked about earlier, you can see the faceplate is still attached. From here on out until we get this off, just be a little bit careful with it. It's not as delicate as, say, the Xbox One or the Xbox 360 Slim, but you just want to be careful not to damage it because there are some ribbons in there. So just make sure when you're moving and adjusting it, you're kind of keeping your fingers on it. As you can see, it's a lot more loose now. But what we're going to do is we're going to get our T10 head here in our screwdriver, and we're just going to start getting all the screws out. The exception are the 4 X-clamp screws right here. Those are the T8, and we'll switch over and do that after we get all these. Now, obviously, if you're just trying to get in here to maybe blow the dust out and stuff, you can actually only take out the T10 black screws, and that's the ones that are black that go around the outside. You got one here, you got one here, here, and here, and here. And actually, on the metal case, they're also labeled with a C and a number. That's case screw 1, case screw 3, etc. So we're going to get all of these out, though, because I'm going to show you how to do a full breakdown. But if you don't need to get to the motherboard and you're not dealing with red ring or thermal paste, just take out the black ones. Okay, before we switch over to the T10, we got our Wi-Fi board right here. We got a little screw there we're going to take out so we can go ahead and get that Wi-Fi board pulled out. Now we'll switch to the T8. And we're going to take out our X-clamp. And remember, just remember that the T8, even though they're black, this is the same thing. These are the small X clamps. If you're not messing with a motherboard, you can just leave these in. Okay, now we've got all the screws out and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to move over. We're not going to take the top off yet. But now we're loose enough where it's going to make it a lot easier to get in there and pry this off. Now, so you're really left with just simply prying this off. And that's why I wanted to take this off, because if this is all tight and you're trying to pry this off, it's going to be a lot harder. So all you have to do is we're going to take that flathead, we're going to stick it right through the end. You see that there's a gap between the faceplate and that, and we're just going to kind of pop it up. And then we're going to carefully, don't rip it because you can crack something, but we're just going to slowly work it up. And then what we're also going to do is, this is actually the exact same type of disc drag that's in the Slim. So to make the difference for this bezel, there's a little adapter here. I like to pry that adapter off because that can fall off and get lost easily. So we're going to pry that off, and then we're going to actually stick it right back into the bezel. Now that we've got that off, we can easily get this off. Again, we're just being careful with the faceplate, not letting it get ripped off to the side or something. Now we're going to take this, we're going to carefully open it, or pull it off, I guess. And you can see right here we've got the connector and the ribbon. There's a little plastic piece right here. What we've got to do is we've got to first open the clip, and then we've got to take the screwdriver and pull that plastic piece over it, and then you'll see it pops right off. And then if this has never been opened before, there's a little glue piece here. We want to carefully pull that off. If you try to pull it off too far away from it, you can run the risk of ripping this. So when you pull it off, hold it as close to the glue as you can. And there's that. Okay, now we're into the guts of the console. Now, hopefully you've left your T8 ready to go, because we got to take out the 2 screws for the RF module here on the front. So we're going to take those out. And then we can just slide that out. And then we're going to take our disk drive. We're going to kind of pull it out a little bit, just to kind of get it out. We'll go ahead and pull our fan shroud out. That pops right out. And then we're just going to start disconnecting all of our cords and cables back here. There's one that's underneath the hard drive caddy. So we're going to pry all the ones we can see off. And then we're going to flip it around so I can show you, and you'll see that you've got one more screw right here, and that is a T10. So we're going to take this T10 screw out of the back here. And then we're just going to kind of wiggle this out, this whole hard drive assembly. Now we can get to the other stuff. So this is the last cable for the disk drive. We're going to get that out of there, put that aside. Next, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the fan. And we're going to take this, there's like a little supporting sort of thing right here for the disk drive. That can just slide directly up. Next, we've got 2 screws right here on the top of the fan. I like to go ahead and take the fan off. Okay, and we can get that out of the way. And then what you want to do, because this is wedged in here, kind of weird to get the actual motherboard out, grab it by the heat sink, and I'm actually going to push it backwards towards the back of the console, and then upwards. So we're going to push it back and then up in the front, and then that should get it let loose, because as you can see, it's got all these little teeth right here, and those can snag, and they're kind of connected, so that should help to do that. All right, so we're going to set our RF housing out of the way, and we're going to flip this over so we can get the X clamp off. Now for this one, we will need a really small flathead screwdriver, and you're going to be you have to be really careful with this part of it, because if you're prying it out and it slips out, what'll happen is you'll drag it across the motherboard, and inevitably you'll cut traces. Okay, and if you cut traces, that's pretty much a a death warrant. I mean, you can fix it, but that's a really advanced repair that a lot of people are not going to be able to handle. So we want to take some real care with getting this X-clamp off. The only problem is it can be really stubborn, so you have to find that happy medium in between. So what I do is I just start with one side and I stick it right in here, and I'm just kind of prying it out. So I'm trying to pry it outwards and then upwards. That first one is usually the hardest one. So we're just getting it to where it's off that leg there of the heat sink. And then we're just going to do a second one. And then after you have two, you should be able to just wiggle the other half off. And you'll see that the heat sink pops right off. And then keep in mind too that these are actual bolts that screw and unscrew, if you need to know that. And then that's pretty much it. So that's the full disassembly, and all you really have to do for the reassembly is do these steps in reverse. I'm not going to really go into great detail with that, but I will say one thing you have to remember is, one difference I should say, is that front bezel, when I reassemble, that is the last thing that goes on. So instead of it being one of the last things to take off and then one of the last things to put on, you actually wait till the end and then put this back on after you've got the faceplate in place and all that. So just keep that in mind for your reassembly, that you have to reverse those orders. So that's pretty much it. I will touch on the disk drive real quick. I'll go ahead and get these cables out real quick. But you've got this rubber thing first off, and that's pretty self-explanatory to pull that off. But on the front here, you're going to see that I've actually got kind of like a foam liner here, and that's actually meant to keep it sealed to keep dust out. It's a good idea, but the thing is you have to pry this off, and it doesn't really do much good in the first place, because you'll open these and see there's tons of dust in it, and you'll realize that that doesn't even really serve much of a purpose. So what you have to actually do is get underneath here, and you'll see it's just kind of like a glue sheet, and so you're just trying to like get underneath it on one corner and just trying to get it up and over the front of the disk tray so that you can peel it off. Okay, there we go. So see, now I can peel that off. And now you'll be able to take your screws out and then just lift this case piece off without any other problems. So with that, guys, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. That's the full disassembly. I hope it helped. And yeah, until next time.